Hello and welcome, all friends and devotees of yoga, meditation, and Buddhist studies. Today is Thursday, October the 1st, 2015. For all those who are from Nigeria, all my students from Nigeria, happy Independence Day, October the 1st. For those who are working today, don't work too hard. My objective now is to read for you my Dhammapada. The Dhammapada, of course, for those who are new. What is Dhammapada? Dhammapada is the summary of Buddhist wisdom. All the wisdom of the Buddha in a nutshell, the summary of Buddha's wisdom, or the summary of Buddhist wisdom is called Dhammapada. There are 423 Dhammapadas. After the Buddha had taught huge teachings, great teachings, very extensive teachings, which is gathered in what is called the Tripitaka, or the three baskets. Huge teachings. Very intelligent thing that was done over the course of history was to summarize what does the master say in a nutshell. What does he say in short? Very brilliant. That's why I'm a Buddhist. After the Buddha had finished his discourse, after we finish a long 1-hour class, what shall we do at the end of the class? You pick out the main points for your students so that your students can understand the basic points, the fundamentals of what you have discussed. For the past hour, students want to know. A good teacher will do that. Once you have finished discoursing, analyzing, teaching your course to students, a very good teacher, a very intelligent teacher, a very efficient teacher would want to bring out what we call the main points, the summary points. And that's exactly what the Buddha did. After the Buddha had finished all his life work, he summarized everything in a nutshell in 423 points, sharp points, accurate points. That's what we call the Dhammapada. It's an anthology of verses. And go like that. Short, 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 short. So if you are a Buddhist, you will understand precisely what does the Buddha say in a nutshell. I can even go beyond that. It's not even 423 points. After 423 points, he even reduces it to laws, 5 principles, and so on, 5 basic principles. So that's the objective of what we call the Dhammapada in Buddhism. Now, when we read the Dhammapada, what's the best way that I teach my students? You are my students. What do you do? When I read the Dhammapada, you listen intently to try to get the sense out of what I'm saying. While you are listening intently to try to get the sense of what I'm saying, you should try to relax as well. Relaxation is important. Why do we prefer Buddhism? We prefer Buddhism because we know the goal of the Buddha. The goal of the Buddha is perfect peace. Peace for all humankind. Buddhism is the only religion that has no violence. We know that the Buddha is not going to take a club mallet one day and smash your head to pieces. Other religious teachings do. All the rest, there's violence in all the rest, except Buddhism. We know for sure that one thing with Buddhism is you can relax yourself, sit down and relax. Even if your conduct is offensive to the Buddha, he's not going to kill you. That's the first law. This law is also pronounced by other world religions, but then when you observe their practice, they kill. Buddhism is the only religion that does not kill. You will not see a Buddhist take anybody's life. So in Buddhism, we are not afraid of anything. I don't fear the Buddha. I'm a Buddhist. I don't fear Buddha. You see? So that's Buddhism. That's the difference. When we read the Dhammapada, what do? You listen. You relax because you know the objective of the Buddha. What is the objective? The objective of the summary of these teachings is to bring your mind to tranquility, to bring you calm in your mind, peace in your mind, serenity in your mind. And I would like to challenge you as the teacher that if after listening to these teachings you do not achieve these objectives, send me an email. I challenge you to send me an email and say, teacher, I listened to this, I meditated, I contemplated, I did not find calm in my mind. I did not find peace in my mind. Because the Buddha understands there is suffering in the world. There is suffering. The Buddha said that life is full of sufferings, but he did suggest meditation. Meditation as the solution ultimately. He did analyze in the Four Noble Truths that suffering, human suffering, was caused by desires. The desires are too indiscipline, sheer indiscipline. Human beings have desires for everything in the world, but they will not discipline themselves and control themselves and knock down some of these desires. That we don't just need these desires. We need to knock down some things and get basic things. You need food to eat every day. You need to have clothing on your body. Look at my clothing. I'm enjoying myself. I'm well dressed and I love that. I admire myself. I'm handsome. I look good. I like that. Okay? So these are basics. We eat. I've eaten today. I'm well dressed. I love myself. Okay? These are nice things. Food, clothing, shelter. I have a place to stay. Okay? If it's cold, I'm not going to freeze to death. Okay? These are basics. But now we know that human beings have certain things that go beyond these. They get food to eat, they get clothing, they get shelter, but then other issues come up. And the Buddha loves to say that all the other issues that come up are absolutely unnecessary. And that's what brings them to be fighting and killing themselves. So you don't find that in Buddhism, because Buddhism, the Buddha strictly enforced. He strictly taught the students, these are the things we need. Food, clothing, shelter. If you have your food to eat, you have good clothes. Look at my clothes. You have shelter, you have a home. Beautiful. No more. We don't need to fight or kill anybody. Okay? So, send me an email, c.aburime@hotmail.com, colorcollege@hotmail.com, if, after reading these verses, you do not find calm in your mind, peace in your mind. We are now in chapter 4, verse 44. Chapter 4 begins from verse 44. Who will attain a thorough understanding of this life at present and in the future, afterlife, gaining full knowledge of the deities and their avars, like an expert gathering brilliant blooms? Who will collect weighty proverbs instructed by the Buddha? Verse 45. A companion will attain thorough understanding of this life at present and in the future, afterlife, gaining full knowledge of the deities and their avars, like an expert gathering brilliant flowers or blooms. A companion will collect weighty proverbs instructed by the Buddha. Verse 46. Breaking free from the enticing snares and shackles of Mara. Mara is the evil one. One observes the empty bubble, reality, or innate characteristics of the flesh, as well as its generally deceptive features. And thus, although the Emperor of Doom may stand right before one, even if omnipresent, one becomes elusive before him, nowhere to be found. Verse 47, death captures and takes away the infatuated soul, laboring, collecting blooms without proper reason, precisely like an enormous overflow of water does a slumbering hamlet. Verse 48, death, the ultimate destroyer, will accomplish his resolve on the infatuated soul, laboring, collecting blooms without proper reasoning, although he has not achieved contentment, satisfaction, that is. Verse 49, the bee draws its sustenance from the bloom without doing any kind of damage or constituting corruption to its fragrance or physical structure. A man of virtue in the community should conduct himself perfectly likewise. Verse 50, one should not waste time contemplating the faults or mistakes of other people, how other humans have acted or failed to act. Rather, one should contemplate oneself, how one has acted or failed to act. Verse 51, like a precious bloom quite pretty on sight, but lacking fragrance, excellent words in a person are useless if he does not follow them very well. Verse 52, like a precious bloom quite pretty on sight and having fragrance, excellent words in a person are quite useful if he does follow them very well. Verse 53, a man of produce. A man may produce a lot of wreaths. A man may produce a lot of wreaths from a pile of blooms. Likewise, a man should produce a lot of virtuous karma, folks, karma for himself, even knowing that he lives and ultimately dies. Verse 54, the fragrance of blooms is unable to move against moving air. nor can the fragrance of sandalwood or jasmine. The scent of the righteous, however, moves smoothly against moving air. One who is righteous scents the four universal points, the four corners of the whole world. Verse 55, the scent of goodness can't be equaled by the most expensive class of fragrance: Tagara, sandalwood, jasmine, and lotus. Verse 56, the fragrance of sandalwood, the scent of Tagara, both are of sufficiently small force. But the highest quality scent, the scent of the good, ascends all the way into the presence of the deities and Devas. The Devas are the gods, of course. Verse 57, ever mindful and diligent in his duties, ever mindful and diligent in his duties and responsibilities now. Accomplished in goodness, released and set free by ultimate awareness. The way these people journey is unknown to Mara, the evil one. Verses 58 and 59, like a heap of garbage dumped on the expressway, in which sprouts a pretty, well-perfumed lotus, so among sightless garbage like mundane humans, a companion of the omniscient is distinguished by great wit. Verse 60. Actually, verse 60 is going to be chapter 5. That's the next, so verse, chapter 4 has just concluded in verse 58 and 59. So 60 is for tomorrow. What my objective is to take one chapter every day. One chapter every day. So I'll pause at that point and allow you to do what the Buddha said we must do. You have heard the words. You can replay the videotapes 100 times. You have the translations attached. You can click on the translations and go through them again and again. And your objective is to meditate on these verses, reflect on these verses, contemplate these verses. And the objective of the Buddha is to remove all humankind from suffering by instructing them. The Buddha was a researcher. Just like cancer or AIDS, he took pain like a doctor would investigate cancer or AIDS. The Buddha, who is called doctor, was called doctor in the ancient times because he was a great doctor, very great, one of the greatest doctors in history, took time to investigate the disease of suffering, find out why you and me, why do human beings suffer? And then he investigated. And so what I've been giving you since is called medicine. All the words of the Buddha, they are medicinal, they are powerful. You listen to them, it goes into your heart, it heals you. It extirpates you from suffering. You relax on them. You listen to them. You pick wisdom from them. This is wise use of time, brilliant use of time. You digest them. And then you apply them to your life. And you find joy, happiness, and peace. Namo Amitofo.